Hello, everyone. Welcome to Ask the Nanny. Tonight, we are going to talk about a very important subject. It's called attention seeking behavior. I know that all have been home for the last 7, 8 weeks, depends on where you live, as to when your city was ordered to go on shelter in place. But I know with moms and dads being at home, it makes it very difficult because the kids act totally different when mom and dad are in the room. So we are going to have a somewhat of a shorter discussion tonight um, on, excuse me, attention seeking behavior. Now, I have with me Miss Robin Williams. And she's going to tell us a little bit about herself and a fun fact.
Okay. Hi, welcome everyone. Thank you, Angela, for inviting me to be on your page, Ask the Nanny, to talk about something that I'm truly passionate about, which is behavior and behavior management. I am a board certified behavior analyst. I have been for a little over 20 years now. So when I tell people that, they're like, well, what does that mean? A behavior analyst is a person who studies the science of behavior. And so we tried our best to determine the reasons why people are doing the things that they do. And then we change things in the environment to promote the behavior that we want to see. So in the 20 years that I've worked as a behavior analyst, I've also worked as an educator, a special educator. I've worked with the population of children who are on the autism spectrum primarily, but I've also worked with children who are developing typically and may not have a diagnosis of autism. I've worked with adults. I've worked with children diagnosed with ADHD, obsessive compulsive disorder, children in correctional facilities, foster children. So a wide spectrum. And a fun fact about me, I that's always so hard when people ask me that. I guess a fun fact or interesting fact about me is that I was born a preemie baby, less than 3 pounds, and was
Wow.
not expected to thrive, but yet here I am, 43 years later, doing well.
Because you had a purpose.
Yes, I do. Yeah, and this
You
is part
had
of my
a
purpose for sure. I love what I do. I'm blessed to be able to do it, and I love helping families.
great, great, great. Now, let's dive into it. If you all have questions, please ask in the comments and we'll put the questions up as they come. But my first question is, what exactly is attention seeking behavior? And is it connected to a mental illness?
That's kind of a loaded question. Let me take the first part of that question. And before I even answer exactly what attention seeking behavior is, I want to just talk about behavior in general terms. So, like I said in my introduction, one of the first things I do when I meet families is I observe what's going on. I observe the behaviors that are going on, the ones that we want to see, and the ones that we may not want to see happen. And then based on all of the things that are happening in the environment, be promoting that behavior, what may be stopping children or adults. We're going to talk specifically about children. So what would be stopping children from displaying behaviors that we want to see? And then we determine the function or the reason why the child is doing that. And in the world of applied behavior analysis, there are four main reasons why any of us do anything. The attention is just one of those reasons. When I'm talking to families, when I'm training teachers, I give them the phrase, everyone eats, EATS. And there are four reasons. E, to escape, avoid, or delay a situation, a command, something you're telling them to do. A is to gain some form of attention. That attention can be positive attention, like acknowledging that you see the child doing something that you want them to do or engaging in a behavior that you want to see. Or it could even sometimes be negative attention, like a verbal reprimand or someone always saying, stop, don't do that. That's still attention. And we'll talk a little bit about that some more. The T stands for things, access to things, tangible things like I want the video game, I want the soccer ball, I want that ice cream. So I'm going to engage in some behavior to get it. And then the fourth reason is S, sensory because it feels, and a lot of those behaviors typically we see with children who are on the spectrum, kids who rock, or kids who might like to see something in front of their eyes, so they put their hands in front of their eyes or whatever it is. So attention seeking behavior is behavior that is maintained and it keeps going because the child is receiving a certain level of attention for that behavior. Oftentimes with parents, teachers, nannies, we forget that that negative attention can also be feeding behavior. I would not say that attention seeking behavior is always connected to a mental illness.
Okay.
Instead of, I was just reading something the other week, a great article by, I think her name is Dr. Tasha Jacobson. She's an early childhood educator and specialist, and she does education as well. And she had a quote that said, it's not attention seeking behavior. The child is most often looking for a relationship. A relationship.
I think I read the same articles. I remember seeing that. I was like, yeah,
Right,
yeah.
right. So if I, as a parent, I'm a mom of 12-year-old twins, and before I had my children, you couldn't tell me nothing. I thought I was the best behavior analyst. I would go in, work with families, tell them do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, do that, and it's going to work. And why can't you just follow this plan? Excuse me.
Bless you.
Thank you. And I learned later when I had my own children, it is not that easy. I can go in as the behavior analyst and say, you need to do X, Y, Z. But then as a parent, we have a lot of other competing variables to think about. We have a lot of things that are pulling our attention and getting our attention and possibly taking it away from our kids. Many of us are working from home right now. And
Yeah.
we're trying to find that balance, right? Between how much time I'm spending in front of the computer, when am I going to prepare dinner, when am I going to fit in time to engage with them? And if our children are doing things behaviorally that they know they're going to get us to react or respond in some sort of way, that is how they're getting our attention. And we need to be thinking about what can we change in our environment to focus on building a better relationship and feeding the behaviors that we want to see more of. If you follow my pages on Facebook, Instagram, Simplify Behavior, one of the things that I always say is what you attend to is what will continue. That goes for positive behaviors and for negative behaviors. Whatever you're giving attention to is what's going to get strengthened. It's a way of acknowledging that behavior. And we know that any behavior that is acknowledged is behavior that is strengthened. That's just the science of applied behavior analysis. So I could go on and on and on in that tangent, but I know you have some other questions, and I'm sure we'll get to everything. But yeah.
Oh, the first question we have is, could you please tell me what is the article that you were talking about? The article that you mentioned earlier about
I,
children seeking a relationship
I believe
rather
that is
than.
actually the title of the article. She's not looking for, it's not attention seeking behavior. She's seeking a relationship. If you type that in, I believe it'll come up. And
Type it into Dr. Google, it'll come up.
it sure will.
Okay. So my next question for you is, what are the signs of attention-seeking behavior? Because I know my children, especially my oldest, I had to constantly keep him busy. He was very hyper, and I had to constantly keep him busy. And he didn't care whether or not he got into trouble. I just need you to see me. Like, I'm over here, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, I just had this baby, and your brother, I need to take care of him. So I'm going to need you to play just a little bit by yourself. So, and he would play, but he would take it to the risk and danger. I'm going to climb up this shelf, and it may fall over on me or whatever. But do you see me over here? Because he knows that's what he wasn't supposed to be doing, because he'll be climbing and he'll look back and climbing and he'll look back, and as soon as he see me, he goes,
Yeah, that
Like
big
that little
beautiful smile.
yes. Like, I know you see me. I know I'm not supposed to be over here, but you know what? I'm gonna do it anyway.
Hmm.
So how what is that about?
Think about it this way, okay? So let me use my own children as an example. I've had a chance to catch up on a lot of Netflix, a lot of Hulu, because I have a little more time so I can watch TV. If I am in my living room and my daughters have done everything they're supposed to do for the day, they've got online, they've done their online schooling, they've done their chores, they walk the dog, they got some outdoor vitamin D time. If in all that time I have not paid them off with attention, so to speak, by
Hmm.
interacting with them, by talking with them, by um, working on a project together, if I haven't paid them with my attention, what could very well happen is if they're in another room and I hear them starting to bicker and argue and I yell up there, what are y'all doing? And they're getting my attention. And what we have to understand is that for some children, they are attention starved. They don't get a lot of attention from their parents. So they will automatically learn these are the behaviors to engage in to get them to say my name, to get them to look at me, to get them to touch me, to get them to interact with me in some way. That's why the ratio of us attending to our kids when they are doing what we want them to do and expect them to do has to be so much higher. Because if the only time kids hear you call their name is when they get in trouble, they will learn from a very young age. And your son was probably the example, that daredevil that likes to climb. He's the most agile kid because he knows as soon as I start climbing these bookshelves and walking on countertops, somebody's going to say something to me. And oftentimes, when I go into family homes, and I know some of the nannies have felt this before, you have established the relationship with the child. They understand that they're going to get a certain amount of attention from you just for being, right? You're going to interact with them, you're going to teach them, you're going to do projects, you're going to have conversations, to take notice of things that they're doing. However, the relationship could be stark contrast opposite with the parents. So then when the parents come home, then you see this child turn into a whole different person, right? You've seen those children. They've been angels all day. They've
Yeah.
listened to everything that you've asked them to do. And then as soon as mommy or daddy comes in the door from work, they already know that the relationship that I have established with that adult means that I only get their attention if I'm rolling around on the floor or if I'm climbing on the back of the sofa. That's how I get them to interact with me. And it's such a powerful thing when we can get parents to understand that they need to flip that ratio. You need to flip it so that kids understand you get more payoff, you get more attention from me by doing the things that I want you to do. That's why you have to be careful what you pay attention to.
Yes. Because
Hmm.
when my little kids, 2 and 3 year olds, they start throwing a temper tantrum, I said, it's okay for you to be upset. I understand that. I said, when you get done, I'll be over here. And that's the time when I go and I'll take out the toys that I have hidden away and I'll put
Hmm.
them on the table and I'll start playing and they'll see me playing and they get up and I said, are you done being upset? Uh,
Right.
yes. Okay, so let's talk. Okay,
Hmm.
what are you doing? I said, we're going to talk first and then we will play the game.
Hmm.
And after we talk and we figure out what was wrong, what triggered it, what do you want? Use your words and talk to me. Then we go on with our day. And we're going and we have fun. And I don't have any more problems. But
Right.
what I don't do is pay attention to the temper tantrum because I know what you feed is going to start growing.
Correct. Correct. And I'm sure, we've seen it. We've seen it in the grocery store. You have a child that's rolling down the aisle in the middle of the grocery store, and the parent that's behind them the whole way, get off the floor. What do you say? You're not supposed to get in this. And if they stop, as soon as they stop and get in the cart, the parent is so exasperated that they don't even want to talk to the kid anymore. I'm done. Just get in the cart. But what needs to happen is you have to withhold your attention and use it differentially in ABA world, we call it differential reinforcement. You have to withhold the attention from those things that might be annoying. They could be driving you up a wall, that tantrum, but withhold the attention and only deliver it when that tantrum has stopped for a certain amount of time. Initially, when you're first trying to use that kind of behavior change strategy, it could be just 5 seconds. The kid stops yelling for 5 seconds, and then you jump in there and you start to try to engage with them. But if that unwanted, undesired behavior comes back, then you have to withhold your attention again. And it's perfectly okay to explain to the child, when you're done being upset, I can talk to you. Or when you sit down, or when you put your feet on the floor, whatever that thing is that you want them to do, let them know that then that's when I can engage with you and interact with you. That's a way to feed and teach and grow the positive attention seeking behaviors.
Okay, so I'm going to take a break right here and tell everyone, please share this video, because I know we are all going through, all the nannies that are still working and the ones that are not working currently have gone through this and are going through this and will continue as long as you are a nanny. And it's not just the kids, it's adults who do this too. So
Correct.
you have to treat some adults when they have that temper tantrum and I need to be seen, and all over the place, and wearing whatever bright colors, and walk into a room, all of that. Please share this video, because what applies to the kids, it pretty much applies to the adults too. Now, we have a question from Nanny Shards. She says, what advice would you give to parents of siblings who compete for their mom's attentions?
That's a great question. One of the things that when I start working with a family, I like to do is, like I said, I observe and I actually look at the number of interactions people are having with their children. What does that mean? I'm looking at how many times you are talking to that child and when you're talking to them, when you're touching them, when you are engaging in what's called non-contingent attention, just interacting with your child and building relationship, building rapport just because they are in your presence. And then what I like to do is sit down and talk to parents, because oftentimes parents don't see that there are 3 children in the home. Did you realize that with the youngest child, you talked to them most of the last hour that I've been observing you, yet these other 2 children had to come to you 3 or 4 times to get your attention. And you didn't stop what you were doing. You continued to look at your phone. You continued to prepare the meal, whatever it might be. There has to be some analysis of all of the variables that are going on in the environment, so that you can sit down and show parents first, this is what is actually going on. Sometimes I'll go and be working with a family and they're like, he won't stop doing that. I just don't know why he won't stop doing that. And I could have observed and I might say, well, did you realize that you told him to stop 17 times and he still didn't stop? You're feeding that behavior. You're giving so much attention and so much weight to that behavior. But after the 17th time, when he finally stopped, you didn't acknowledge that he stopped and you didn't feed that behavior that you wanted to see. So that's something that has to happen. We have to sit back, watch, take information, and share it with parents. Because when we're in the thick of it as a mom, sometimes I'm not even paying that much attention. I have to step outside and look at, well, wait a minute, is she engaging in that behavior because I haven't really paid attention to her? How many times have I talked to her within the last 3 hours that I've been doing my Zoom calls and my Microsoft team meetings? It hasn't been a lot. So when parents can see that information in front of them, then you can give them strategies for how to increase that time. Non-contingent attention is one. Having scheduled time with the kids. So knowing that, okay, I need to put a reminder on my cell phone once every 2 hours. I'm going to sit down with little Johnny, have a little conversation, and then I'm going to have a separate time with little Susie, and I'm going to have a conversation with them. Or even having like date nights or date days. As a parent of twins, my husband and I try to make sure that we take the time individually to build relationship with them so that they know we're trusted, we're consistent, and they're going to get our attention. You don't have to engage in all of that extra stuff to get our attention. So I hope that helps you.
Well, as a newborn care specialist, I work with some families that have older children, and I always tell them include your older child in what you're doing with the baby, and also make sure that dad spends time with the baby and you're spending time with the older child or the older
Mhm.
children. And
Mhm.
then you swap out because the baby gets all the attention. Everybody comes to the house to see the baby. Everybody brings gifts to the baby, and the other kids feel left out.
Mhm.
So I always tell them make sure that you take time to spend time with your older kids because just because a new baby came into the house, yes, the baby needs attention, but your older kids need attention too and need to know. They may not be able to tell you. A 3 or 4 year old won't be able to tell you, hey, I'm jealous of that baby because now he's getting all the attention that I had just a couple of weeks ago. It
Right.
was all about me. And
Right.
now it's all about the baby. And, if it gets to a point, I've seen it get to a point where the 3 and 4 year old starts acting out.
Mhm.
And mom and dad was like, stop doing that. And like you said, it's all about I need your attention too. Don't ignore me because I need you to focus on me because everybody else is focusing on that baby.
Right. In a great way, I'm glad that you mentioned, Angela, like having the older children be a part of caring for the baby. A great way that you can do that with younger children, littles, 3, 4, 5-year-old kids, give them special jobs, give them special roles. You can be the diaper picker upper. You can be the whatever it is you decide. And when they do that, go over the top to let them know how important, how special, how valued that action is, so that they know they're getting the payback and the attention that they want from engaging in that behavior. I don't have to, swing from the chandeliers. I know that I have a special role and I'm going to, you know how kids can be. I have a
Yes.
special role, and when I'm doing that, then I'm wow, mommy and daddy are proud of me. And we have to too. We have to get away from um, telling our kids all the time, "Good job," or "That's great," or whatever. It's one of my pet peeves as a behavior analyst and as someone who really looks at how behavior grows. And yes, I'm not saying don't ever use it, but we have to expand our own behavioral repertoire as nannies, parents, caregivers, even therapists to be more specific about what it is we see that we want to continue. So when I'm working with parents, I often say what you see. If you see that your child has completed all of their chores, instead of saying, that's great, you completed all your chores, say something that takes the value out of it so that you can teach your own child to own their behaviors. It doesn't matter whether or not I think it's a good job. I want you to feel good about it. So instead of saying, wow, that's a great job, you completed all your chores, try adding more to that. Try saying something like, you must have really worked hard and planned your day out to get all those chores done by 6 o'clock. Something like that that is specific to what you see is going to do two things. It's going to give more specific and weighted praise and acknowledgement. And it's also going to give that child the feeling of owning their own behavior. They can be proud of what they've done. They can make the connection that when I engage in this behavior, I get this good quality attention from my caregivers and from my parents so that we can remove ourselves from having to deem whether or not it's good or bad.
Okay. Now we have a question from Holly Ann. She says, my nanny child is 4. Since both parents have been home, she hasn't she's wait a minute. She has been acting out. I'm thinking that's what she's saying. More aggression towards me. Do not know what to do.
Hmm. That can be really tough. So aggression, that like it could be an attention seeking behavior. It could also be maintained by escape. I don't want to do this right now. So oftentimes what I see, and I can't say that this is specifically what's happening in her situation, because I would need to know more of the variables that are going on. But oftentimes what I see is especially if there's a caregiver or nanny in the house with parents. When the parents are gone, the child understands that when my nanny asked me to do this, they're going to be consistent and I'm going to follow through, and my nanny is going to give me that reinforcement and that feedback that I need. However, and many of you nannies can attest to this, when mommy and daddy are around, they could ask me to do the same thing and I don't have to do it. I'm not held accountable. So when you have all three of those adults in the environment at the same time, and the nanny is saying, okay, come on, it's time for you to take a bath now, and they go to kicking you, that means I don't want to do that right now. I'm going to escape, avoid, or delay that because my parents are here, and usually I can get away with it with them. Not all of the negative behaviors that we see in children, or the undesired is what I prefer to say, not all of the undesired behaviors that we see in children are attention seeking. Some of them are because I don't want to do what you're telling me to do right now. Some of them are because I want to play the game a little bit longer. Um, some are because I don't get your attention and I know I'm going to be able to get your attention that way. So that's where a behavior analyst comes in to work as a parent coach, or even help nannies kind of figure out what's going on and ways to intervene.
Okay. So when you said about the kicking and the aggression, I have personally um, witnessed that. I've even had a parent tell the neighbor in front of the child, um, she behaves better for her than she does for me. And I'm thinking to myself, don't say that in front of your baby, because you're just literally giving her permission
Right.
to just do whatever she wants to do. And I'm like,
Yeah. And what you permit, you promote. So,
yes. And it's like the negotiation. And I always tell my parents, be consistent. Whatever you do, be consistent. Let your yay be yay and your nay be nay. If you giving your child mixed signals, they're learning if I cry long enough and loud enough, they're gonna give in. So let
right,
me just ramp it up a little bit louder, just go for it.
right,
And even with babies, little babies, they know when I come in, if I'm working part-time, um, the nights mom and dad are there, they're like, oh my God, we had a rough night. I go in and I talk to the babies. I say, okay, we're going to have a good night tonight. We're going to go to sleep. I'm going to change your pamper. And I just tell them what I expect of them. Now, babies are babies and they're going to do what they do anyway.
mm-hmm.
But if I tell them what I am expecting, oh, something is in my eye. If I tell them what they're expecting, what I expect of them, it just seems to be a better night. And mom and dad get them like, how'd you get them to do that? I was like, words have power.
Yes,
And I just talked to them.
right. I love that you said you tell your expectations. And that makes me think about setting boundaries and limits with kids, which is a great way to deal with attention seeking behavior. And oftentimes, when setting boundaries, a lot of you are probably already doing this. The whole if then contingency, phrasing what you want your child, or your child that you're caring for, to do with, if you do this, then this is what will happen. It sets them up for success. It sets them up so they understand, oh, okay, that's all I have to do. If I pick up 3 Legos, then I can go play. Or if whatever it is, you want to make sure that you are clearly communicating that. And there's many different strategies to setting limits. If and then doesn't work all the time for all kids, but it's a great way to start. And your thing that you need to do as the nanny is to continue to be consistent, so that you can always acknowledge that behavior that you want to see. You feed it with the attention, with the acknowledgement, with the positive reinforcement, and positive verbal feedback, so they can continue doing that.
All right, I'm gonna show this question because I didn't realize it was gonna cover everything. So everybody can see it. Both parents are home. When I arrive, parents are engaging until 8:30 a.m. He starts lashing out, spitting, yelling, screaming, throwing the things that I asked him to clean up, and even hitting the younger sibling. When giving him specific orders on cleaning his toys or mess before lunch, sometimes even eating his lunch or snack, or transitions into a new activity because Zoom or TV has ended. He also does not have a good relationship with food.
So what is
So
the specific question? I see a
that,
scenario here of this child that's having a hard time with a lot of things. I'm not sure as to what is the specific question. There
I'm not either.
there could be so many things going on with that child, and that's the hard thing about behavior analysis and behavior intervention. I would definitely need to know more about what is happening right before the behavior and what is happening right after it. That's what a behavior analyst does. We look at the triggers in the environment, we look at the entire setting, we look at what requests or demands have been made, and we look at how all of the people in the environment are responding to each of those behaviors to determine what needs to be changed. So um, that seems like a very difficult situation. I'm not sure what the specific question is, and I would like to help her.
That's what I was wondering. I read the scenario, but there's no question. So, um, how I know you've given us some some answers and some ideas and some tips, but when you see attention-seeking behaviors and you know that they are attention-seeking behaviors, especially children who create patterns, because that's one of my things. I do a lot of observations and do a lot of anecdotal notes.
Mm-hmm.
How do you, because I write them down and I present them to the parents and I tell them this is what's going on and this is, my suggestion as to how we can handle it.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a way that you suggest that nannies who are experiencing this attention seeking behavior, that they go and talk to the parents about what they are witnessing and what's going on? Because I know it's a difficult time for everybody because everybody's in the house and
Mm-hmm.
nobody can go outside. So what do you suggest on how to talk to the parents about maybe uh, give me a text message, let me know when you come in through the room because little Johnny is, acts up every time you come through the room. What do you suggest that how we handle that conversation
Mm-hmm.
between the nanny and the parents about the behavior?
I think the best thing to do, like what you are already doing, is take anecdotal notes. Actually, data collection forms that you can ask Dr. Google, what is an ABC data collection? And when we study behavior, we look at antecedents, the things that happen right before, we look at the behavior itself, and then we look at what happens right after. So if you're taking notes, so you can find these data sheets online, you can look at them. If you email me, I can send you one. I think I have a free downloadable one on my website. I could talk to you about how to complete it. But if you look at every time mom comes in the room and says, it's time to wash your hands, he starts frothing at the mouth and rolling all over the floor. And, then after that, mom says, okay, well, fine, you don't have to do that right now. Then that gives you a pattern. You want to start looking for patterns so that you have that information. So when you sit down with parents, of course, you're going to tell them all of the wonderful things that you see that their child has been doing. But then you're going to follow that up with, look, I noticed every time you ask him to do something, when he engages in this behavior, then you say he doesn't have to do it right now. So he's learning that behavior gets this specific payoff. Or I noticed every time you and I are talking, when I'm debriefing you about how our day went and I'm getting ready to leave, that's when he decides he wants to, slide down the banister. That's attention seeking behavior. So how can we intervene so that we know he knows what his behavioral expectations are that you have of him, but also that's not in a way that you're going to get my attention. Is it a behavior that you can ignore? A lot of times I read in literature, attention seeking behavior, oh, just ignore it. Well, some we can. And for some behaviors that is absolutely appropriate intervention, behavioral intervention, but for some, they are dangerous behaviors. So that is where you need the assistance of someone to come in and develop a behavior plan to work with the family, the family, the parents, and the child for how everyone is going to respond the same way every time. I see that the question came back in from the previous
Yes.
scenario. How do I, as a caregiver, guide him to make the right choices, or how to react when he lashes out? Well, the way you react when he lashes out is going to depend on the reason why. Going back to the function, everything I do is driven by function of behavior. I cannot intervene with a child. I cannot teach an appropriate behavior to replace that undesired behavior if I don't know what the reason is. So we always have to know what the function is. That's what a behavior analyst does. As far as guiding him to make right choices, you want to make sure that you set your boundaries, your limits, that you have a schedule, that you are consistent, and that you acknowledge and reinforce those behaviors that you want to see or the right choices so that he will continue those behaviors.
Okay. Marissa wants to know, what about moms working from home and banging on the office door?
The child's
The
banging
child, that's what I was going to say. Is the child banging on the door? Or
on um,
I'm assuming it's the child banging on the door because
okay,
mom's working from home in the office.
okay.
Okay.
Does that child have a schedule? Does that child have another activity that they can be engaging in when mom is working? Because that is attention. Mommy's attention. Maybe mom needs to start out with having a set schedule of every 45 minutes or every hour popping her head out the door to give some interaction and some feedback. Maybe the child might need, depending on their age, a lot of young children, time is a very abstract concept. So they might need something that shows mommy has this much longer and then she's going to come out and be with you. You would be amazed at the wonders of visual supports and what that can do for children that need
Mhm.
to understand how long something is going to last for. So there's many different strategies that could help with that.
One that I suggest is I use with my 3 and 4 year olds who are learning fine motor skills. We grab magazines and we cut out pictures. And we see the clouds. Okay, this is our outside time. I laminate the pictures and we put it on put Velcro on both sides. So every morning we have a schedule. Nap is the same and lunch is the same.
Mm-hmm.
But if they get to choose when I go outside, when I go to the library, when I go here, when I go there, so they have chosen their activities for the day, and it gives them some control over what they're doing that day. And you can have many different pictures and put out the pictures that this is what we are going to do today, but
Correct.
let them choose what they want to do in the order that they want to do it in. And that way they know, okay, so we went outside. Oh, we're going to read books next. And so they know, okay, let's go read the books. Oh, we're
Mm-hmm.
getting ready to have lunch. And they know it's getting ready to have lunch. And it helps with transitions too. If
Correct.
you give a countdown, because I know kids can't tell time. And I'll say, you have 5 minutes. And knowing good well, we're leaving in 1 minute. But I'll tell them 5 minutes. And
I did
they're
the
like,
same thing with
okay,
my
in
own
30
children.
in 30 seconds, okay, you got 3 minutes, because it's trying to get that brain to transition to say, okay, I got to cut this activity off. I got to wrap up what I'm doing because we're getting ready to transition into something else.
Mm-hmm. And as soon as that transition is made with no problematic behavior, then you go over the top with that acknowledgement and that positive feedback. Jasmine says, what do we do when the parents do not want to acknowledge their part in their child's behavior? How do you get on the same page with parents in denial? The best way you can do that, in my opinion and experience, has been to take those anecdotal notes and have a sit down meeting with parents to show what you see. And if after you do that consistently, then you may want to reconsider if that is the family for you to stay with. And I know that sounds harsh. However, if
It's
you
the
are
truth.
doing if you are doing the best to document what you see, and make sure you document the great things too. No parent wants to hear, your child is horrible because you don't have any boundaries, you're not consistent, you're not. Document the things that they're doing well also and what their strong points are, and then follow up with, but I noticed this pattern. And I think that if we respond in this way, we can get a better response from your child and better cooperation from your child.
Yes. I like the sandwich method. The good, the not so good, and then the good.
Yes,
That sandwich it in there so you don't leave them feeling like, oh, my child is horrible. Oh my
correct,
gosh. Yeah.
correct.
So, okay. Now, one last question. Um, is this behavior a need for validation? Because I know some adults, don't get me started on that one. Anyway, some adults need it, but is this a no in like preteen kids? Because younger kids, I don't think they think about validation. I'm thinking more about the 8, 9, 10 year olds because of what goes on at school and their peer pressure and I want to be liked, I want to be seen, I want to be. They need that approval.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when did we begin to think that attention seeking is always bad? It's
Right.
not. It's not always bad. Yes, attention seeking behavior is the need for validation. That is why it's so important for us to validate the behaviors that we want to see more of so that kids, children, adults, teens, adults, I'll say adults again, so that they don't continue doing behaviors that get our attention that are junky behaviors, that are things that we don't want to see. So, yes, of course, attention seeking behavior is a need for validation. And then that's where the onus is on us to
Mhm.
look at, well, how much am I validating this child? How much am I spending time with them to build a strong, solid relationship that they know they're going to get attention from me? They don't have to do anything that's out of the box. So we need to make sure that we have a much higher ratio. Research says, the old ratio used to be 3 to 1. Whatever three, whatever time, whatever corrective interaction you have to give to a child, when you have to say no, stop, don't, redirect their behavior, you should have already given them at least 3 positive interactions, attending to them when they're doing something that's expected, having conversation with them, playing a game, setting up their picture schedule with them for how the day is going to go. You should have at least 3. 3 to 1 is the old ratio. The current research says it needs to be as much as 5 to 1 interaction. And
Mm.
group call outs for kids can be good. If you're nannying 3 kids and they're all on task and doing what they need to be doing, maybe you cannot stop what you're doing, but you can just do a quick shout out. Hey guys, thank you so much for playing together nicely. I'm busy, I'm over here, but I see that you guys are playing together nicely. That counts as positive attention. Anytime that you're attending to a child when they're doing what they should be doing or what's expected, or anytime you give that non-contingent attention, that counts as positive attention. So you have to make it cost more and be more valuable to get that kind of attention than to get when we have to reprimand and redirect. We know we're going to have to do that anyway. No one is perfect, right? So we know we're going to have to reprimand, but you should be giving so much attention on the other end that when you have to reprimand, a child doesn't feel like, well, dang, she only talks to me when I'm doing something wrong. Because that's when you get more of the negative attention seeking behavior. Goes back to that comment. It's all about building relationship.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight and giving us the crash course in attention seeking behaviors.
Definitely. And if anyone wants to follow up, please feel free to email me. I was trying to put in the comments, but I don't see how my email address.
Okay,
I
I can
don't.
put it. Oh, wait a minute, wrong thing. Let me go back to. I'm about to put it in the back. Okay, so your email address is
Robin, ROBIN, at Simplify Behavior. For anyone who is on the live, I will do a free 30-minute consultation. I also do consult with parents and caregivers and educators. So if you need more in-depth analysis of what's going on with the students or the children that you are serving, please feel free to reach out to me. and we can take it from there. It's been my pleasure, Angela. I love talking about behavior. Thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Now, um, please join me tomorrow night on the U.S. Nanny Association page. We're going to be talking about water safety with kids with Carrie Bland. And then on Thursday night, I'll meet me back here. We're going to be talking about men in education. We are celebrating this week Teacher Appreciation Week. So if you have a teacher that is in your life or in your child's life or in your charge's life, please be sure that you thank the teacher. Because I'm sure with today's the way the world is today, we have emails, we have Skype, we have, you can send a video, get mom's permission before you take a video of that child and send it anywhere. But, make a teacher feel special. You can't take anything to school or because school's not in, but you can send a video, a heartfelt video, or something funny, or have the child draw a picture. You take a picture of him drawing the picture and the finished product and, send it to them, something to make your teacher feel appreciated, because it is not easy being a teacher. I know this. I've been in the classroom. So please like and share this video. Please like and share Robin Williams Simplify Behavior. Go to her Instagram. It's and go to the Twitter
Facebook.
and Facebook, and like and follow and share. And if your parents have questions, or you want to share this video with them, they can contact Robin. All you have to do is read all these little things that was scrolling down the underneath our topic. All of her information is there. So please, 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 let's support the people who come and give us information. Okay?
Thank you so much. I look
Thank
forward
you.
to
Thank
hearing
you.
from some of you. Awesome.
Yes, yes. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And we will see you all on, for sure, Thursday.
Have a good night.